seconds. Seconds. Go.
Greetings and greetings. Una kabo, una kushe, me fumble them. I'm glad for seeing una all here. So today, and thank you, una don't join we one more time for this wonderful show on Diaspora Voices. Me, na USIFU JALLOH, on the Speak Up, Speak Out show. This show, now the show where you look at we culture, where you look at we heritage, where they look at all the little things where they inside we kotoku, the little things where they inside we shukublai, the little things where they inside that we country box, where we mommy them, we granny them, we grandpa them, don't keep long time ago. That thing where they inside today would they come for camp pull, then things then they would they dig inside the shukublai, who pull all things come out now, make we discuss them. This na Speak Up, Speak Out with me, USIFU JALLOH. Today, the program na Bai Bureh, the spirit of Bai Bureh, part 2. Last week, for them, one them pound away join we last week. We remember we talked about the history of Bai Bureh. We discussed Udat Naim. We talked about him in the Konkoroma we been get between him and them British people them. How he go about that Konkoroma day and what he bring about that Konkoroma day. Well, today we don't come back for can discuss a little bit more about Bai Bureh. Why make we talk about Bai Bureh right now? Well, I think to say important for make we know we own history. Important for make we know about the people them now we history. We don't make we dey we say we dey like it today so. So, pan Salon history. One of the prominent people that we get, we play pivotal role, important role for make Salon de Usai de like so today. Bai Bureh na one part them people a day. Of course, una go agree with me for saying not just Bai Bureh, but we get plenty. We get Sembe Pierre, we get Wallace Johnson, we get Madam Yoko, we get plenty, Chief Banya, all them people in there, we get them plenty. And even right now today, we get some they we still they make history today. But we go camp and they one day as time they go on. For now, we want to look Bai Bureh. We want to look for figure out wetin na the thing the way they will learn but Bai Bureh. Anything the way important way Bai Bureh do where we go able for take for make we country better. Well, during the first program, we learned quite a few things about Bai Bureh in determination for make in people them be a united people them. We look but Bai Bureh how he able for tin up against white man and for tell them say, una look, una no go come na me country for can tell me waiting for do inside me own country. Then the nine call saying a self-determination that one day. Bai Bureh been tin up for that. We discussed all of that the last week. Well, today we want for can look a little bit further because now we want for examine Bai Bureh in fact with them British people and they, then John Bull and they. When he make Bai Bureh not able for succeed 100%, or maybe he succeed in the own view. You know, something the fact that somebody like tinap and say no, we're not going to take this. Something that is success than actually we need. But all the same, somehow they capture Bai Bureh, and then send Bai Bureh all the way na exile, all the way na Gold Coast at that time, which they will call Ghana. And then send Bai Bureh in exile. By the time we come back na Sierra Leone, na Ulpa now. Well, We want to discuss today, we want to pull more things there out of the Kotoku, more things out of the Shukublai. Today, I get special guest there with me for can continue this discussion. Last week, not last week, the first discussion we'll do 2 weeks ago, of course, we get the great Mr. Ade Daramy, we himself again a historian. We don't do plenty research on Bai Bureh. So today we get Mr. Daramy. Mr. Daramy, do you say hello to we people there for we?
We people there on Adu and all the one we've been kind the last 2 weeks ago. I'm glad we want to all come back, and I hope say all man can with well body. So today we get forget some serious, as he say, go inside the Shukublai, because Bai Bureh, you know, come out of nothing. Waiting make Bai Bureh do, waiting he do, waiting surround and waiting up in the society. All that they will get for look, because it is important.
Well, you know, thank you, Mr. Ade Daramy. Make first of all say, Mr. Ade Daramy na Gambe ide so right now. So if una dey see where all thing that 19 no more na dey see, I beg una bear with me, okay? And to know how electricity business in Africa is thinking they it can turn Nambara, especially inside West Africa. So now they right now the light business not so bright, so they are big. They say kapu sense, not kapu face, all right? In this case, when I listen to the wisdom, when Mr. Ade Daramy get for can put Pawina, so even though I get for see the face clearly as the time they go on. But next again, we get Mr. Patrice Naiambana. Patrice Naiambana na famous actor, na also very, very successful actor na England. And himself again, of course, we're passionate about the history of Sierra Leone. So himself there with me now. So Mr. Patrice Naiambana.
Una kabo, may God bless you now all. I hope you now all day well, but you all the family them well. I look forward for myself for learn more in this wonderful company where we get here. So let's all just learn together and see how we can go before together.
Thank you. Well, the last time we've been get one way young man with we, Mr. Alim Kamara. But Alim Kamara not able for the with this term. So in case you know the wonder for say, well, how come no young man no they by the gang? Well, we will like for the young man there, but Mr. Alim Kamara unable to forget him for making day with we pan this one. We'll not try for bring any new young man because he finds somebody we actually know the history well before for make you come on. If you don't know, you could go find a little bit difficult. But all the same, in a day, I'm sure you're going to listen to USIFU Ade right now. Well, but for even though Mr. Alim Kamara no day, we get somebody where himself can again where he say almost full den tanga. It's a person we get boku babati and you know pan salon culture and salon history and so on. This person also himself na professor, himself na scientist as well, and a person we get high respect for. A person we get passion. But Sierra Leone, and a person we said again, it establish in your own science lab now all the way na Kabbalah for begin teach we young people them about the importance of we own culture and how for use and how for see we culture in terms of scientific light that we culture self get science now in this person self they do. So please make her introduce to na Mr. Alaji Njai. Mr. Njai, if you did it, please say kusha to Fambulem, unmute and say kusha to Fambulem. Oh.
If you look, don't drop off. Oh.
Ah, it look like Mr. Njai don't drop off. Oh dear.
I don't know what's happened. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, no problem. Hopefully, sometime he go come back. I go ask the producer for maybe for try for get hold of him again. I will go send quick message to them. But the conversation go carry on. So, just for remind we people them again from Musa will be not start again. So there, Mr. Daramy, so tell me you go able for just giving people a small reminder again about Bai Bureh and this fete way it been get and why. No, just quickly just go through that one, no more. Then I want to examine, why make Bai Bureh fail, if not the word that they are going to use. Why make it not succeed or why make them capture them? I go on for a little going to inside that one day. But please take me back no more. But the small kuskas will be there between Bai Bureh and the British.
Yes, and I think say important for me to talk now because I think say the last time we talk, now the kuskas mainly we concentrate on. And then have been the 1898, the war what they call the hot tax war. Right? We concentrate on. But if you look the history, because because of what happened the last time, this talk, I decided, say, okay, make I go read all my book there. So I read about 3-4 books since last time to now. I read the reports where the British do. You know, they interview past 250 people, and then record everybody in interview, verbatim, word for word, waiting and talk, all day. So do you would I get time? Una contact parliamentary archives. I will give you the address, una contact them, because they're not agree send out this. I even published on Twitter and on Facebook the letter where they sent to me, say back in 2011, where they give me this the document, and they say, do whatever you do, no share the documents. If anybody wants to see and let them make appointment, can see we in our parliamentary archives. We will make them read as much as they want to read. One of the reasons why they do that, they want to do an exhibition on the hot tax war, but this exhibition they not end up doing, I don't know for whatever reason, but I'll try to contact them again. So what I want to do is, I want to write to them, beg them, say, do you want to make this thing be where people that were able to get easy access to online? Because to be honest, I don't know why up to now, as I talk, say the thing over 1,000 pages, all the documents there. There's no reason why they're not for release them. But anyway, if I go back to the war, in shorthand, Bai Bureh decides, say, person who come out overseas can take advantage, tell and say, Oswe in the Bai Bureh bill, in get for pay tax to somebody else, we not bill that Oswe for him. So now, in short, na be in dispute that. But if you look the documents there, you go back to 1894, 1895, 96. They actually been they send people out for sensitize them, what we call them now. But tell them, say, will they bring this tax scam? So you they see some report them from some Creole mammy them where they beat their husband, kill them. Because they may try for enforce their tax. So then take statement from them. In one case, even one Mrs. Tabitha Williams, I think her name, they ask and say, when they attack, the war boys, when they attack, who that they attack? He said that the Creole the normal. And they ask and say, why? He say, well, then identify, we say, we too close to the waitsman there. Now we they enforce the waitsman there law. So then say, what's happened? Say, well, then tie my husband and get a good beat. Other one, they not kill him, but instead frontal, then tie your husband and get a good dirty beat. So that was 1896. So in 1896, the British then actually issue an ordinance where they go make them read all over the one whole salon. If you read that now, you go laugh. Then put thing they say, let people left for the kill and eat them company. Then put they say, let people then left this slavery business for the sell. They even bring people that will come, then talk, say, yes, somebody owe me money. So I sell that person, they give to other person because this person owe me money. All that they did in full plain English. And they even name the various interpreter the way they use for take evidence from everybody. As I say, over 250 people, including Madam Yoko, give evidence. He gave evidence. Yes? So I smiled when you mentioned him at the beginning of this. Because instead talk, because one of the things that the British say is, they say one of the reasons why they send troops now, because Bai Bureh and the other so-called war boys don't begin threatening, say then they go attack them. And they go attack Madam Yoko. Even down this, I even found one British newspaper where they talk about that. Where somebody talks, say one of the reasons why they jump inside it, and because there was a fear that Madam Yoko, who was friendly to the British, they go win him. So they even talk about, say, if you're a person from the protectorate and you get, as they put it in the report, a palaver with a countryman, now in the protectorate courts, you get for come decide if the money will not dispute over £25. If it's less than that, I can go local traditional court there. But waiting that me upset about is that in some of the traditional courts there, some of we demand them, then they pass law, say, yes, this person will owe you money, go take a wife, go take a picking, sell them. So all that, not bitter thing, I can tell people, that me and somebody may even discuss this today. I say, you know what? I say, I want to make every Sierra Leonean read this because it's important to our history, and yet 99% of we don't know. Say, then thing and they be the B to that extent. 1898 with the talk. That's 2 years from the 20th century. Then they beg people and say, do you want to left for kill una company? Una left for the sell una company? Una left for the chapel eat una company? I mean, as I say, when you read that now, it sounds kind of odd, kind of funny. But all the thing and so this is 1896. This is not before the war. Then go to the extent where they talk about who are the first people that will oppose the the hot tax. Udana in Mende line, Udana Timni line been the opposed, and Udana been the enforcer there. All that did it. Believe me, all man get for read this because it's instructive. Because people then they talk without any, there's no spin. They talk, say, this happened to me. They catch me, then beat me husband, front me, then tell me, say, if when I come back, next year we'll go kill her. Things like that. It's all there. Then talk to people and win our chiefs. Now, 250 people and then take all man statement. Take statement from the governor to the local police. Then even there's a list. We run into 3 pages of policemen there where they accuse, say them they go beat country people, take money in their hand unfairly. Most of them they either sack them or then demote them and then fine them. All that's been the be. All that. So the war not come out of nothing, because then when they try to enforce the tax, then they take advantage from people there. Go lock up people, one policeman even admit, say yes, in lock up 2 people there, then put somebody in custody where they say this person has somebody in slave, where he's supposed to protect the person. In the end, they return the person back to the person who enslaved him. All that he admits, then demote him for that, then fine him for that. So all that's when they go. As I say, 1896, this was 2 years before it was. So when we talk about the hot tax itself, there was a lot where really happened at the country, advantage, past advantage. The policeman, they were then sanctioned. I don't want to read the list, but too long. They even talk about how they go. So even then take people and fall, take their sheep and goats in their hand unfairly. And when they bring them confront court, they admit it and do that. And because of that, then demote them. So all of that's been the deal. So, leading up to this now, so when Bai Bureh now, when they can Timney line say, Paupa, after we don't go around the one whole country, we don't explain to people then waiting this be about. It's our, I say no. I say I don't care. Who's can explain or not explain? Me they give una my own explanation, which is now me bill me us. I know they can pay you for thing with me bill. It's our serious one. Then other man they begin join and say, yeah, bro, you're right. Because at first people they go on along with that. And one of the reasons why they go along with it is because, frankly, they're afraid. So when they attack some side, they see some people and can join them. Then they go find out, say, some village there, they give food to Bai Bureh them because they support them. The British go there with them troop, then destroy the village to dust. All that then are the reports. What's man there? Even the thing that were negative to them, they put inside there. They destroy villages to dust.
I'm sure plenty people already listen to this kind of report. We probably don't know anything about this whatsoever. Will probably be shocked in a way. But I'm glad the way you give this kind of background to the hot tax war, and this is 2 years before the war itself. Now, let me also just quickly mention to people here. This is Diaspora Voices. USIFU JALLOH, just listening to Mr. Ade Daramy giving some background as to the hot tax war. We're talking about Bai Bureh, the spirit of Bai Bureh. With me, the guest here, I get Mr. Patrice Naiambana. We soon go ask himself his own point of view as well on all of this. But also we get a telephone number for call if anybody wants for calling. For ask any question to Mr. Ade Daramy, to the guest in the house, or to Mr. Patrice. If anybody gets any questions, you go call London number 0044 7946 141369. I will repeat 07946 141369. If you're calling from America, from abroad, from anywhere, it is +44 7946 141369. I'll look forward for your questions and for your own opinion on this topic we'll discuss. Okay, so let me just carry on further from this, because now what Mr. Ade Daramy, what he don't throw, so this it's like today now with the kind of injustices that we see they happen. Let me go from 1976, no school, no college, if you like, in Sierra Leone. I know we'll talk even right now, but let me go, if we want to go that far back, the killings of certain people, no school, no college, suppression of the press, killing out any kind of opposition, and then eventually we come to what we call the war today, from the killing of Mina and all these different people, and today we get the war. So sometimes people don't know the background to some of the Kuskas the way we get. So what you say, from all the way back 2 years before, would I sell slave, would I don't capu impossible in welfare, so would I don't buckle this one follow, would I don't buckle this one on cow, all for sell. All these kind of grievances don't create distrust. Is that more? That's more or less what he is saying, Mr. Daramy.
That's exactly what I say. But I think one of the most crucial thing we want to end on saying in this particular thing about the distrust or mistrust, whichever it is, it created almost two Sierra Leones, colony and protectorate, and they even tried to rule them as separate countries almost. In fact, they even spoke of them as being separate countries. And so when the people in these separate countries started viewing themselves as being in different countries, then how they will get one word? I will get unity. If you feel say that man in another country, it might as well be in Guinea or in Liberia. It just happens say they call the one whole thing Sierra Leone, but they were so different because in a sense, waiting they're not one completely upset the order where they meet they meet chiefdoms, they meet chieftaincy and so on. Some were hereditary and so on. They know say if they capsize all of that, there will be anarchy. So in some instances, they say, you know, they let una do certain things then, but you know, they're out in town. But they don't say, but you know, this we don't talk say slavery don't done. I wanna go still they can practice slavery inside way, you know, with the control and so on. You know, so all that begin foment this thing between people and seeing themselves as separate. And honestly, that carried into the 20th century, where people still almost saw themselves as being in two separate countries. And I'm not sure we've ever finally dealt with it. And I think that's at the core of the problem where we get Nasalon Tetide. Believe me, Tetide. These things, you can't just throw them out and pretend they didn't happen, because they are in the core of what we be as a people. Because for most people, like we growing up, you know, people that make sure say, we work at the one old salon. We not just sit on our free time. No holiday, not they meet we inside free time last day. That same next day, we don't go fence out, we go bow, we go kenema, we go corner. You know, they make sure say we work at the one old country. Just for no. And yet, when we can come back, believe me, in class of 14, I mean, one grain and that class, they go upline. That holiday day. Short holiday, long holiday, no matter. So people, when you can tell them thing then, say, oh, so and so be now, you can't tell them say, oh, we go and cinema, we need Rex, na Bo, another cinema, we need Odeon, then better pass the one na Freetown. Then say, gonna lie, I go better pass. Because they don't see, they don't believe. And so people, they don't know this country called Sierra Leone. So we can come back, we can say, you know what, if we want to let this country forward, don't forget about saying that the British force we all for can be this something. Let we just call our salon and we defend that salon there and make it better. Otherwise, the country not ever go before. And I think to me, that's the lesson that we go for land. Then lesson the way history teach we, they will not repeat the mistake. Of course, I'm proud to say me that I get Madinga and I get Creole heritage. Fine, you know, but me as Sierra Leonean, first and foremost, me as Sierra Leonean, because I've accepted that, saying that not the reality, whether I liked it or not, even though we get family in Guinea, we get family in Senegal, we get family in Gambia. This Sierra Leone, let we all, let we defend and let we make them better. Who that they can make them better for we? And we get for doing. So for me, that's not the crucial thing we get for land from waiting up with Bai Bureh, the division, the divisiveness, when I make in the end then defeat her. Because if one word been there, them for win.
Mr. Daramy, you talk on so many interesting points where you bring on board. I want to bring Patrice into this, because one of the reasons we triggered this discussion about the spirit of Bai Bureh was because we were asking ourselves, what is the common thread? What is the common narrative we have as Sierra Leoneans? Do we have one? If we not get one, then now which one will we get? This is now one of the main things we trigger this conversation here. So we'll say, let we discuss this. So in light of this, Patrice, I wonder what USIFU could be able to add to this particular information where Mr. Daramy just don't give it.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, I'm very grateful to Ade's incisive, apprehension of the history is an inspiration to us all. And I feel say we for all try for um, follow that example there for find out wetin happen so that we can see wetin we can learn. And that's something as diaspora people, we're not always in Sierra Leone. So really our role is, what is our role? We're not there for tell anybody how for behave. We're not trying to point fingers, but we're trying to look at our history. And I just want to show old man Miss Salon passport. Look at Olan 30D. So although we're not always there, I'm a Sierra Leonean looker. And I get right for talk about my papa and country. Anyway, one of the, they don't talk about how it was a very complex situation, different sides. There's even some debate like, well, exactly now, been the hot tax war really with itself, or was it a catalyst for other things that had been happening? And one of the things to take from the whole episode about Bai Bureh was his commitment to justice and fairness. And I'm wondering, and there are so many examples of that. He was, he trained as a wrestler, as a warrior from a young age. He was into his cultural things, in the northern part of Sierra Leone. And even before the hot tax war, he been on begin for deal with advantage, and even the some of the trading and illicit trading with the slave trading with the British been dey ban, he was already trying to deal with it. However, he left the colony alone, so which meant that at some point he was having to play an interesting diplomatic role, if I could use that word. Maybe it's not the right word, where he was sometimes seen as an ally of the British. But when the hot tax war, when they begin for say all man for pay tax, and then oaths, Bai Bureh said nothing. And this characteristic of him, no one for take advantage. Even when they arrest him, because they so respect him, because the British at that time were the foremost military army in the world, and they're not being able Bai Bureh. And why I they bring that up is that in all the complex history, one thing we can take from Bai Bureh stance and a few others like Bai Shabru, there's some other leaders, them, Mendeline, when they were done, then send them man and then go all exile, and they take 96 of Bai Bureh in warrior them, they arrest them and kill them, but they left Bai Bureh, right? The British had a huge respect for that mandate. Why? Wetin have been the qualities of that mandate? Wetin have been the qualities of a leadership, right? Where I feel say we can learn from, and can we take that on board now? Then qualities then are they things that we can use for unite we? Can Sierra Leoneans get around those type of qualities? Yeah, whether I'm Mamiuko, whether Lamina Sanko, can we get around those qualities of leadership? So another thing about Bai Bureh, when they go exile na Ghana, he resist and set confusion they back because of the slavery we've been there. He never stopped. This was just all tax war. We for look all the man in behavior before the war, after the war. And I'm looking at some reports that even when they carry and go inside, when the district commissioner one charge him with crimes against humanity, of all things, the British, they charge him. He refused to, when they call the names of the prisoners, all man they answer, yes, sir, yes, sir. Bai Bureh just say yes. Now in the district commissioner say, is there not something else you're supposed to say? Bai Bureh, what else am I supposed to say? So you should say yes, sir. Bai Bureh said, I'm not saying yes, sir to you. He's the man in spirit of defiance. Like I mentioned the last time, what's his name again? The governor, Kadu, where they say 100
Cardio, yeah.
for anybody we catch Bai Bureh. Bai Bureh say, I dey give anybody 500 pounds if then go catch the chief witman. The man, you know, justice. Wait him up and justice. Now take go. No, there was no zero tolerance. So I just want to add just quickly, there were two books that maybe if you now want to know a little bit more, there's a book called Bai Bureh and the Hot Tax War by Kande Bureh Kamara. That's quite easy, you know, for young people can read that. Then there's another one, The Adventure of Bai Bureh of Sierra Leone, A Tale of a Warrior by Ibrahim Kuruma. Those are two that I came across. I'm sure there are others, but just for encourage you now. Now, in that last book where I mentioned the adventures of Bai Bureh, I want to read something. I'm not sure whether the writer sort of reimagined this or whether they use some of the reports that we had they talk about, but still it brings across the spirit of this man, right? The qualities of person we wants justice for all man. So it's chapter 15 and it's not very long, and it talks about when they returned Bai Bureh to Saloon from exile. And when they returned Bai Bureh, the British had so much respect for him, they reinstated him as chief, Nakase, up Port Loko. That's the level of respect that Bai Bureh had from the foremost empire in the world at that time. So maybe that's a little bit of a clue as to the kind of leadership we supposed to aspire to. Let all men of the world respect you, right? So anyway, so when they returned Bai Bureh, he was joyously welcomed back in Sierra Leone. He addressed his people in a jam-packed conference hall. So inside the book, he said, "My people, we all yearned for a better future. We fought the hot tax war because the British wanted to rule us in our sovereign land, our forefathers' land. Our destiny was to have a sovereign state free of interference from the Western powers. But that is ever going to remain an illusion because we will never have the economic independence that we deserve if we remain incompetent managers of our abundant mineral resources. Not too long ago, 96 of our fathers and forefathers, that is the warrior that when they arrest Bai Bureh with. Our forefathers shed their blood in order to free us in our homes. Now that we had achieved that, we have other issues to consider. We must fight for an honorable future. We will be faced with battles regarding our unity, regional and tribal divide. But most importantly, we will confront international commercial economic problems. It is going to take significant courage and patriotism. It is going to be a long fight, but it will be worth it." Then he writes, all the people that are around, we will crown him. He is our defender. We will crown him. It goes on to say that Bai Bureh was going to be crowned paramount chief of his people in an elaborate ceremony. The crowd surrounded him. They picked him up. They you know. So he seemed to be a leader that had the ability to unify. Obviously, you had different complex situations. Some man were hang on to the slavery, some man were chaps, or, you know, like Ade was saying. But there were leaders in that hot tax one. I think 24 of the chiefs there signed petition along with Bai Bureh for say, this is our advantage. We want to rule ourselves, and you cannot come and tell us what to do. So it wasn't just Bai Bureh, there were others.
Let me just pause you there. Let me just pause you there because I know as I said, we're definitely going to be digging a lot deeper into this, and I'm so glad there are so many people who are listening to this. People like Mary and Gladys, for example, she's talking about, wow, very good history for us to know. For example, Abu Kul Bangura is saying, thank you for bringing a program like this. Very interesting. He says, do you know your history? Would you like to share some history with us? Okay, please call the panelists. That's just calling people. Mary and Gladys again, that's what we used to sing. That's why we used to sing this song by Bureh, saying Bai Bureh was a warrior. Now, of course, we have all of these different songs, but in light of what we're looking at now, we are beginning to see that this man was more than a warrior. It was just this amazing unifying force, but against a very complex background that Mr. Ade Daramy pointed out for us. Mr. Alhaji Njai is here with us at the moment, and he can only join us via phone, without a video, because internet system is a little bit difficult. So I don't know, Mr. Njai, if you're there, I just want to ask yourself, as a scientist and somebody who's also passionate about our own culture, I wonder just what your own view of Bai Bureh is, whether he's somebody you have looked closely into, whether he's inspired you one way or the other, especially in light of what has already been said. Mr. Alhaji Njai, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, yes. I believe, yes, Bai Bureh is such an inspiration. I read at secondary school, I read a little bit about Bai Bureh. And I think that story that I read on secondary school was a source of inspiration, but also I think over the years I've just been contemplating on Bai Bureh, and from a sense of the status of him in Sierra Leone, a true patriot, also a leader, as I've been hearing from the two speakers, and what he stood for. I think it's one of the things that in Sierra Leone we have not been able to fully come to terms with and grasp with in the country, and really understand him and the figure he represented, other than just someone who was just rebelled against the British court and then sent to prison, and then then that's it. The story ends there. And so I think this is really important, what you're doing, and what I've been listening, because my phone dropped off, so I had a little bit, I had a keen interest on what both Mr. Ade Daramy and Mr. Patrice have been talking about. And to me, it's so important for us Sierra Leoneans to have this sense of history, a proud moment in our history, something that we can all galvanize to, something, someone who can inspire us all as a country. And we can learn a great deal from him and from what he did at the time, standing up for something and being, probably it was unpopular at that moment, but he was ready to stand up and ready to sacrifice things. And so sometimes, so that's what I think. So thank you so much, Yusuf. I'm glad you're doing this. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll keep listening.
Okay, but once in a while, I mean, if you have to go, I can understand. But if you're still going to stay, I will be bringing you on as well to throw light on it, because I'd love to. Because yourself, you're a professor, you're a lecturer at Farabe College, and you've lectured around the world as well. So that aspect I'd like to bring in, because we would want to know how we give this history some contemporary relevance. So please don't go at all, because we are going to be looking at that. And you are a pivotal person towards this program and what we're intending to do. Mr. Patrice, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to say, because I mean, we hope, and I'll leave that to Ade, the deep historical kind of things. And I hope everyone goes and let me check my own history, But I want to maybe home in on the leadership quality then. But this man and all the other man them and woman them, we don't fight for the betterment of their country. Bai Bureh did not appear to be a man when a team the man no more be the for. He not look like that kind of person. And he allied with Mendes, he allied with many other nationhood them. Me not like for use the word tribe. Nationhood them. He unites with other men then we want the betterment of the country to fight a mighty superpower. And not only that, for deal with our own problem them back. And this word sacrifice, a very important quality. If you not, I think, I don't know if we mentioned that last time, say Bai Bureh we get Combra hat.
Yes.
A very important quality. As you know, if you are a parent, you sacrifice for your kids, your children. So if you are going to be an effective leader, this especially in the midst of great challenges, Bai Bureh sacrifice. As a warrior, he's ready for die for a country. I'm not saying we for all go begin fight yourself and kill yourself for to say we love Salone, but now the quality I they say. So if we look again in that book where I just read, there's a paraphrasing the writer use. Say Bai Bureh say, we have to fight to get what we deserve. That is to be with our families in our respective native lands. If our goal is to acquire freedom, we must be prepared to make great personal sacrifices before we can accomplish our goal. On the other hand, self-centered and lazy people will never see the end of the road because they will relax when success is so close yet too far. So what is the lesson for us now, you know, as a whole? I'm not just talking about the political leaders, right? You remember a few times ago, you did a program called Mob Justice or Court Justice. And I brought up the issue, well, if we want court justice, it's not there for go court. So in a situation where we don't tight in the country, and I'm saying this to any bourgeois elite person, you're going to have to drop some of your fees. You're going to have to sacrifice so that people who cannot afford, I'm just giving as an example, people who cannot afford, they don't take advantage of them. Don't rape them begin or rape them wife or whatever. How forgo these courts now when the lawyer then they charge? The lawyers are going to have to think of giving our own form of legal aid. Some other country them, if you not get money, government they help you for go represent yourself. We're going to have to be like Bai Bureh and begin to examine some of those sacrificial commitments for make the country go better. You know, go there no more, you drive 3 Benz, you begin to go to England or Germany or whatever, then you they charge boku money. Of course, you are not saying you should not, you know, earn your living, but thing don't come. We get for sacrifice and help we save. It's as simple as that. Those of us that can afford it, right? We have to sacrifice. We get one thing. If you wrote wait yourself, we're not going to wait for government. Some man them, I won't mention the areas, but some area then are salon with. If you see the host there, they're big and fine. But the road well. Why all them people there they were not able for jump that plane car abroad or 5-10 for a year. 15 of una no able together and make that road day. So now go drive una fine Mercedes Benz up the road. Salon no go before unless we have that kind of heart for our country. And that is what I'm learning from Bai Bureh. So even me, you go say, okay, well, wait till you they do. Well, as an artist, me and USIFU as artist, get for sacrifice a lot for like USIFU is not getting paid for this. We're not getting paid for this. That sacrifice will be sacrifice. We could be somewhere else doing, and as artists, we have to do that from where we come on Salon Kanaya. Now that we get for do for help with country for Ade is the same. So many other Sierra Leoneans as well. I can name the Sierra Leone Cancer Charity, for instance, sacrificing for try for help with country. So we really need those that put themselves and call themselves leader in Salon or any African country, or even yourself with Uncle Boris Naya. Care for sacrifice. A leader that does not understand sacrifice, not a better leader than one day. And why am I saying that? I'm looking at Bai Bureh's story. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very solid point there. And I just wonder, because I know Mr. Ade Daramy, I'm sure he said the itch for coming at this point. Okay. I know you're itching to come in at this point. Because now we're looking at what is there to learn about Bai Bureh. I guess more that's where we're going. I know, and even when you're talking of sacrifices, I know Mr. Alaji Njai, my goodness me, the sacrifices he's also making at the moment in Kabbalah, it's no joke at all. But I'll come to Mr. Alaji Njai just for you to explain a little bit more about what you yourself are doing, because I wanted to talk about that spirit of sacrifice that Bai Bureh make, and we're linking it, of course, so that I'm glad, Patrice, you brought it around this way for us to link it to Bai Bureh. But Mr. Daramy, is there any other quality maybe that you could probably bring on here as well about Bai Bureh?
Yes, because I keep saying that, you know, Bai Bureh and the hot tax war did not come out of isolation. And just before the hot tax war kicked off, there was a letter that was sent to the British, and the people who signed it were Alkali Moriba of Port Loko, Bai Foki of Mafoki, Bai Farma of Safrako. Sorry, somebody's not going to mind. 1 minute. Somebody's sorry.
All right, no problem. You can go. Let me
mute. Let me mute, and then
okay,
I'll come back.
Okay, yeah. I'll go over to Brother Njai, Brother Alaji Njai. You know, we're talking of the spirit of sacrifice there that Patrice just mentioned, but so we're looking at qualities that Bai Bureh had, or that we could probably take from Bai Bureh that we think we could use to help bring our country together, to help move our country forward and inspire this younger generation. And I know you are a man that is making immense sacrifice already in Sierra Leone. But even before I get to you, let me just remind people of the telephone number to call. If you do want to make a phone call in and ask any of the panelists here in the questions, it's 0044 7946 141 369. That's the number to call.
I'm back.
Okay. Oh, good. Mr. Daramy has come back. So just remind the number again: 07946 141 369. This is Diaspora Voices. I am USIFU JALLOH on Talk Up, Speak Up. This we're examining the spirit of Bai Bureh in the pursuit of trying to see how we could make the country better. Waiting there for learn about Bai Bureh. We'll just talk about the spirit of leadership. The spirit of leadership, so important. But let's come back to Mr. Njai. Please bear with me. Let me come back to Mr. Ade Daramy.
Yes, and I'll try and be brief this time because I'll just explain very quickly the letter that he wrote before the hot tax war. The hot tax war we can see as the camel that, the straw rather, that broke the camel's back, because they made on write to the governor and he tell them, say, look, we since una come begin make, you know, Chief Kakatoa Panwi, we people they're not agree for work again. You know, we servant, they're not agree for work again. Then he writes, and I'll read from the letter. The actually letter, they had somebody who wrote Arabic for translate the letter from Arabic to English for them. He say, so Captain, please tell the governor to make him feel sorry for us and not for him to take any of our land and give it to a stranger. You know, and he also says that we're not able to pay this. We are poor people. All we have is our farms. Don't take woman palava from us, you know, and, you know, leave us to govern in the way that we have governed our own people. So you say concerning all this, we sent to beg the captain to tell the governor not to pull the power to judge these matters out of our hands. But the letter that came from the British was quite dismissive. And essentially it was saying that all these lands now belong to the Queen. So the Queen rules them, and get for observe. And so this bit that I've just read, I just wanted to mention quickly because for me, it is one of the greatest books ever written on Sierra Leone, and it's by Christopher Fife, but it's not the one most people will know. This one is called Sierra Leone's Inheritance. It's 384 pages, and it is stunning piece of work, of research, it is unbelievable. I'm trying to get Peter Anderson to upload it onto the Sierra Leone web so everybody can have access to it, because obviously if I try and send out something that's 15 megabits to people on email, it's going to eat up all your email. Well, at least you can download it from there as and when you want. But, I know we're talking about moving forward, but, you mentioned, I think also Patrice mentioned about all these other chiefs. He brought them on board for making them sign this in concert with him. But the reason Bai Bureh was vilified, for the very reason why Patrice talked, when he went into exile, he not bowed down to nobody. He did not bow down to anybody. And people felt that was impertinent for me to not bow down to Whitman. And that is why we should treasure him, because of that indomitable spirit. And that is what we should learn. Say, you, Salon, we might be a small country. And I've said this many times. Growing up in Sierra Leone in the 1960s, we were inspired for belief, say, we can achieve any damn thing where any big country can achieve. When did we lose that? When did we lose that spirit of adventure that made Sierra Leone the first country in the world to have self-adhesive stamps when almost still been a lick stamps for another 3-4 years, in 1964? Where is that spirit? Where did we lose it, and how can we get it back? These are things that we grew up in Sierra Leone. Trust me, I never felt coming to England I would learn anything better than what I was learning in grammar school, in CKC, and what I learned at Cathedral School. In those days, they were the equivalent of anything. And when I came to England, it was proven right. And I just very quickly say, when I was at CKC, sometimes if I lucky, I can 10th in class. When I came to England, nobody beat me at class till I left school in England. And yet, nobody can force a salon. That was the grounding we got, and where did we lose it? How did we lose it? And how can we get it back? Going forward, we talk about sacrifice and all these things. Yes, these are the things we need to do if we want to make this country the great country that it once had the potential to be, which it's lost it. Let's not pretend, but now we will feel safe.
I want to ask Mr. Alaji Njai, how do we get this back, Mr. Njai?
Yes, yeah, very good insights. I've been listening. This is really, something that we need to amplify in Sierra Leone and try to bring this mainstream, because from what I see, both from the primary to the secondary to the university, we are losing this understanding about ourselves. We know everything else about other places around the world. We know so little, about ourselves. And I think we, for me, this is the type of inspiration that I've gotten from, whether it's Bai Bureh or, any of our great heroes of Sierra Leone. And somewhere I think it kind of hit me that I needed to kind of be back home and continue that type of work that they have done, because I almost feel like, as going further with my, my education and achieving everything that we achieve has been on their own backs, and they've done their own part. And we, on this generation, have to continue that part. It has to be an intergenerational thing, because it's like, it's a journey, it's a struggle. And at the point in which Bai Bureh was, he did what he had to do. And others came and picked up there, we got independence. And now we also, in our own generation, have to begin to think about what is the transformational things that we can do that can transform our societies in a very bold way, just like Bai Bureh was bold. So taking that courage of Bai Bureh to be very bold, to be able to sacrifice, but also to have do something very phenomenal. And I think that's some of the things that we, in our generations, we need to begin to think about, rather than just this horizontal, shift in our countries. We have to begin to think about bold, big visions, very, very, and ready to sacrifice to get it done. So I give examples like when I, in 2014, I was in Sierra Leone, Ebola hit Sierra Leone, and I decided to go back to the US, and I was at the University of Wisconsin-Madison where I teach, and then also at Procter & Gamble, a very large company in the US. And I told the guys at Procter & Gamble that I was going to come to Sierra Leone to fight Ebola. And I said, and everybody was like, oh, how can you? It's going to go. We shouldn't even make that, a big thing because it's going to create a lot of stigma. It's going to create a lot of issues. Oh, how would you, want to go back to Sierra Leone and this Ebola is so deadly? And I said, well, I'm going back to my country. The worst that could happen is I get infected, and it's, you die, and I'm in my country anyway. So I don't even want to be evacuated back. So I did that 2014, and from 2014 we've been working on Ebola, and with that I had a partnership. We started, and we got into making vaccines, and that got into being one of the few Africans who've worked on developing an Ebola vaccine candidate for Ebola. But also then it didn't stop there for me. For me, it's always been, how do we transform our societies from the parts that were more disadvantaged? So we've had two Sierra Leones, just like Mr. Daramy was saying, all over. And if you look at the colony, everything was focused in Freetown. And then the protectorates have never been able to come to that speed. Some of the things that Bai Bureh and others stood for, they were kind of disadvantaged in a way, and at the same time also felt they had to be exploited again to support the colonies. So now for me, coming back to Sierra Leone from 2011, I said, I have to be in Kwenadugu. I have to get, one of the most disadvantaged districts, not because it didn't have people, it had people, but I think we haven't been able to do the things that can effect massive change on young people, can impact them in a way that can transform their lives, but also we begin to think differently. So for me, over the years, starting with young people from primary school there to secondary school, I've been back here from 2011. Now we have from 56 students that I recruited in 2011. I probably have over 1,000 now, and many of them have gone through, going to college either in Freetown or in Jalloh or in Makeni. But it doesn't stop there. What I want to do is not just, come and do the same experiment of, educating young people with the colonial form of education. It's really about giving them a sort of a strong sense of themselves, whether it's their culture, whether it's leadership, it's entrepreneurship, it's about community service. It's about understanding yourself as an African and understanding that we have to sacrifice and we have to become servant leaders in our societies. So part of me supporting students in Kwenadugu that I've supported over the years is that you have to show to me that you will do community service, you will do a project that benefits the society, and also you will be involved in community learning. And now I would say,
Mr. Njai, just 1 second there, because there's something which Patrice is dying to say something here, because you have just said so many interesting stuff, and I know Patrice it will be interested in some of these things. But there's also a question as well for Mr. Ade Daramy and Patrice. So I'll ask the question now. Maybe Patrice, you can answer this. But Mr. Njai, I'll also want to come back to you. You mentioned earlier about echoing Mr. Ade Daramy about Sierra Leone being ruled as two separate countries. And then you also talk about the practice of exploiting the provinces in order to feed Freetown. And I'd love to expand on that a little bit. Okay, maybe Patrice or others could expand on that as well. So I'm loading a few questions here for you guys. But the producer has just asked here, says, are there any truth that Bai Bureh was actually trying to enslave his people and felt threatened on the arrival of the British and the colonized slaves? This was based on historic understanding. This is just a question from the producer. I don't know who
there are examples, like I gave you the example that when he was sent into exile and he was put in a type of a prison, he fed the system, the back.
Yes.
And there are examples of him fighting illicit slave trading that was going on. He stood against that. And the manner in which he stood against the Otax war suggests that he wasn't going to go to all that wahala just to continue slavery himself. I very much doubt it.
Mr. Daramy, what's you?
Yes, I wanted to come in here because I smiled when I heard the question, because actually, even for all the fact that he fought the British and fought them a bloody war, it's on historical record that he helped them suppress the slave trade within the country.
Exactly.
He helped them, and that's before he and they had a problem. And that's on record. Don't take my word for it. Go to the National Archives. The letters are there about how he supported them. Or go to the Hansard, which again is online, and you will see evidence of Bai Bureh working with the British to suppress the slave trade that was still ongoing in the country. So that's I'm sorry, it's not true. It's not true.
And to move on, and to tie that quality of standing for your country, the betterment of your people, and to link it with the qualities needed, and to link it with some of the very wonderful practical example we Alhaji Ijai don't bring. And I love the fact, thank you very much, sir, because you're bringing concrete, you're trying to tie concrete things that we can do. And I have to say, let us admit it right now, that Sierra Leoneans do possess these qualities that Bai Bureh has. There are many Sierra Leoneans. We get that spirit of perseverance, right? We have shown it through all the disasters. We showed it in Ebola time, when we had the mudslide during the war. Ordinary Sierra Leoneans came through that. And we must, I'm not saying give us a pat on the back, but let us also acknowledge that. And that's not a good thing. The spirit of Bai Bureh is alive. I'm talking about ordinary Sierra Leoneans. We get for grab every day. Mothers doing all they can for feed them, picking them, give them, picking them the best. We have those things. But I think it's time for us to put the spotlight on the elite and the bourgeois. It's time to put the spotlight on them, right? Because if person way, it is struggle for it, but it's getting through the day. You get 5 bends. What are you doing? What do you do? And in the situation we find ourselves in, as Bai Bureh found himself in, he said to himself, what? Naya, what am I going to do? And also, Bai Bureh was not just a warrior. He was a farmer, was a businessman. He was into crafts. He was into education. Because in those days, because if you look, we're dealing with Ansar, we're dealing with the British, but we also had crafts and textile schools and guilds and stuff like that in those days. So if you go into the history, you go see, we've been get denting and the. So we Sierra Leoneans were still talented, because anytime Salomon left Salon go any side with a spark, any side we go na the world with a spark, any side. You go Korea, you go meet Salomon Day. It is spark day. So this question of where has it all gone, I want to reframe that and say we still have it. We have the Bai Bureh spirit. Otherwise, how are we still surviving? It's just that we have some certain blockages and we still have outside interference, they can, because of what we have. So it really is a thing of leadership, and not just political leadership. You know, if you have more than enough to eat, you should be asking yourself, why should I eat and another man does not eat? If you're not asking yourself that ethical question, as Bai Bureh must have been asking himself those ethical questions, then you're not like Saloon. You're not like Saloon, because the 4-year-olds, we have geniuses who are age 4 right now. We need to support them. We need to make sure, because that's, if we don't look to the young, the ones that are coming out, the ones that are being born next week, if we don't look to them and begin to do projects like Mr. Njai is doing, and there are many people doing that, we don't give them enough credit. We need to start giving ourselves credit for the skills, for the talent, the spirit of perseverance, and the spirit of Bai Bureh that already exist, not just in Salon, all over the continent of Africa. And we have twofold things. We need to make sure that the rest of the world stops extracting from us. And then we need to, that's an external, because we still have invaders. Bai Bureh called them the boat invaders. He didn't call them the British, he called them the boat invaders. We still have boat invaders, and we have internal sellouts. We must ask ourselves, Uda, are we still selling ourselves? We must ask that question. And if we are still selling ourselves, in what way are we still selling ourselves today? And who is doing the selling of Sierra Leoneans? We must ask ourselves those difficult questions if we actually mean better for Saloon, if we actually love we country.
And that's a really, really sober question, I think, to ask ourselves, you know, whether we still sell USIFU.
Yeah,
I think
we gotta ask ourselves that. And
yeah,
who is doing it?
Yeah, because one of the common things we go find among Sierra Leoneans them right now, Naya or abroad, anywhere where they talk, you go, yeah, me, I'm not mix with Salon people them. I just stay one by myself because Salon people we mix with them, no more, we'll get this problem, we'll get that, we'll get that. And you hear that a lot. So it begin for ask the question now, well, waiting, what you do about this? You know, part of the sellout this. What about we picking them where we the born? How we get forgive we picking them the chance for make themselves able for mix and get rooted inside the Salon culture. Now, because now one thing where Mr. Ade Daramy talk about Bai Bureh, where you read that letter, you talk about ways he say make you not bring what he make not bring is it plaba or something like that. But whatever it was,
let them not pull. What did I say? Palava. That now disputes regarding women. They want pull another hand. So they say they can administer all other kind disputes amongst them as chiefs. But when women involved like divorce and so on, they not allow them for do that again. You get for the bridge, you get for takeover. Now they say let them not pull hand in at the hand.
Well, I think that is a very important indication that one day again about family, how important the family units be for we, because there Bai Bureh the talk say together with people will say no, we're not gonna pull we own family matter. We can't go over to you when a foreigner. We know to they part of the family. You know nothing more with family. Now, I just wonder, Mr. Njai, because you didn't have tongue day, you deal with a lot of things. They're working in the schools and so on. Whether this is something you able for Rob Motzpam, especially you're dealing with young people in Sierra Leone, you try to train them and so on. How I don't want to use what how strong, but the importance of family. Looking at the Bai Bureh spirit, you able for comment anything at all on that one day? And by the way, lines then go open very, very soon. I will be ready for receive calls then very soon. Mr. Laji Njai.
Yes, I believe now one of the big challenges we face nowadays with a breakdown in some of the family structures and the support structure, the intergenerational knowledge, and the whole aspect of with communal systems. We been there for some of where we grow up. So when I grew up, Kabbalah, and nearly everybody know me. I also know that, you know, the whole adage of it takes a village for raise a child, even they, that, and I know for sure, because, you know, and we grew up in this where every household was open with the enter, and then, you know, the family been there, and there was a support structure. But now we deal with a lot of picking them. We then really na a challenge situation. And some, you know, basically na a teenage mother, and others not get the resources where, you know, and you define, say, the challenges and so enormous. It's where, you know, something that like a way we they grow up, you know, go even think of, you know, pa or mama, then they condone, you know, that the girl picking will be the we not even married yet, will be the person we go support the household. Like, you know, mommy would say, you know, what in the girl picking, what they send for me today, you know. I did think about when we they grow up in a house with we parents, and they make sure, say, uniform, they able know all the things, and they able to provide them, you know, and then they work, forget that, you know. And to me, even I even think about we society now, we're supposed for them be one step advanced than that, you know, where, you know, we produce more graduates now. We produce more people where they go through universities now. But yet again, you they find out, say, more people, they're more hungry, more people not able to get their basic things. Whereas we pardon not even being get any university education, but yet then able put we all under that umbrella of them and support we. Like we all go school from Kabbalah, my brother and others, we probably even willing, if you been, you know, still there alive, or say, you know, at the pay now way in, they almost think, say, you know, if you even, you know, support you, and also, you know, if you put letter ASFT to the big wall, you know, sabi what in letter A mean. But they were capable. And so now I wonder what don't happen. And at the same time, there is this breakdown. So everything don't turn up in a way, in some ways. And we get for an important element what we need for, you know, work on more. Now we own na Sierra Leone, our society, because now an important and integral part of we Africanness, the family unit, the communal unit, and the support structure for we. Because, like for me, I know, say, within, you know, when I grow up in Kabbalah and my culture, and is that, you know, I know that I am who I am right now, the whole concept of the Ubuntu, because of the collective. And so, and it's painful now with the see picking them, you know, I deal with a lot of them from, because now, in fact, Kabbalah, they will call me the picking them papa, because I deal with some of those from when they come at age 3 or 4, then they kind of we programs or something. So I begin see them from class 4, because I decide for go from class 4 for recruit them. And so they can be very young. And so you know, almost you be the person for able to provide uniforms, books, and even food that they provide them for them after school lunch and feeding, you know, because these are all things that, you know, some they're not able to get anymore. The things that we've been able to do and get, and that sense of support what we get from families, you no longer there in that big sense, because, you know, there is a breakdown. And we get for young people in our Sierra Leone today, they wake up and the first thing when they take na pega pack, and then the next thing, then they into other drugs and tramadol, other forms, other things. In fact, I discussed then this as we biggest pandemic na Sierra Leone, not to COVID, na the structural violence every day on young people, whether men or women or boys or girls, and then on ordinary people and families. the structural violence is too much. Lack of water, you know, picking them the grab early morning. Then, you know, Freetown, as soon as he hits March, sorry, December, just now, or even this October, now 5-gallon yellow rubbers from morning till, you know, then they start 5 a.m. in the morning till then 8 a.m. You know, you think about you go school, you not eat much. And then you think about you day all day at school. Then you come back again, you get for starts. And then Sunday do then shift. You know, then 2 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and then they begin then class 1 o'clock. Sunday go day, then after that 5 o'clock, then done, then by 5 o'clock, then they try to get back to the house. And till then 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So the daily aspect of structural violence on people is very challenging, and that's something we say because of all of this and the daily things, the challenges on young people and communities and families, we definitely, every one of we Sierra Leoneans, careful, tighten with belt and make sure we're not there on another time bomb, because what thing I can see at the scene at the streets in Freetown, I see Kabbalah, I see McKinney, I go Bo, I see all side, I go attire bases, I see young people, I ride Okadas. We are almost sitting on a time bomb, and we need to be very, 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 you know, this type of stories, this type of inspirations, this type of and back with doing things on the ground would be one thing we would be very, very useful for we in this country. Otherwise, you know, I tell people with a kind of swing between these parties and stuff. But if we're not careful, the time bomb where they come, they sweep everybody. You know, we even pick wood and wood. And because you know, when you suppress, when you look, when I mean, I see these things. I walk in remote communities, Moyamba, Kasewe Forest. I go up to Moyamba Junction and sit at the night at Moyamba Junction, see what they go on, see the desperation, the level of frustration in other places. And I just say we get for belting up in this country, tighten up and it's tough. You know, it's almost, if you're not careful with daily structural violence on people, the day then get up and then say they're not good, then really don't be suffocated and then not they breathe anymore. The day then they grab that thing, it could be a challenge for we all. So I think that the thing is that breakdown in that family, and it's just hard. You know, picking them the bond.
Mr. Njai, really, you just paint a picture where I mean, it's horror basically. It's like walking into, it's like, you know, literally watching a horror movie or listening to a horror story, because whose side you don't get the family don't break down like this. Really, it's almost like I say, we know, you know, with not the chance we left now. Now, if again, this now one of the reasons that when me and Patrice initially get this discussion about the spirit of Bai Bureh, we say we want for Fen waiting at that thing about any of these people in the past, what we can able for draw from. So family was one important thing. I remember talking to a few other people like Sorio Samura and this other man, the King Masco, instead not a part of the program right now. But with King Masco, I remember we talk about family as being one of the major unifying force. And then land was another thing as well that we talked about. But now, Mr. Njai, I want for some of the things that we mentioned, I want to bring them now. I want to bring this over to well, either Mr. Ade Daramy or Patrice. I know, say Patrice, your hand was also up on this. But I want to ask, looking again at the spirit of Bai Bureh, we're looking at family and we're looking at land and we're looking at self-determination. Do you think maybe we are wearing an oversized shoe, and the cost of paying for this oversized shoe to fill up the extra so that our foot go full, so that this shoes go full up feet with foot, is causing us to suffer the way we are suffering? What I mean by oversized shoe, The way would it try for develop? For example, government talk say, logo bill for go build $2 billion bridge, for just as an example, right? Are we putting ourselves, is our government putting ourselves in positions that we cannot afford? Bai Bureh's letter to the governor say, look, we not just poor people them, we not farmer them. No can put extra bagbati per we, no can put extra load per we, we're not good for take. Left we are we there, so we they run things fine. Now with the extra tax, now like I say, you get oversized shoe, where if they're not able for pay, now sufferness now they come afterwards. So it's either you get oversized shoe, or you wear shoes with tight for your shoe, with tight for your foot. Earlier on, you also talk about knowing USIFU, about who that now we discovering your own identity. Where you know your own shoe size, problem done. Because now you're able for wearing your own shoe size, you know how to deal with them. I want to put this particular question again, looking at the background of Bai Bureh, but I want to put this question to either Mr. Daramy or Patrice, any one of them.
I'll go jump in here because you don't catch me, Crocro, where you mentioned the bridge. Because this is not a thing where we get for go far. You can go online, you go see the arguments there with me and Manny don't get about this bridge 2 years ago. Manny, they tell me, say yes, we will build $2 million bridge because tourists then go come. Okay, Corona don't come, COVID don't come. If we don't build that bridge there now, $2 billion. Me talk say, let we build up with schools then, with university then, with hospital then. Trust me, if we spend that money there, by hospital, decent school, decent university, decent other infrastructure, we're not worry about say Corona come, because guess I for look after them. We're not begin panic. But bridge, if we don't build that bridge there now, trust me, when Tango come for make people then begin go back to traveling and so on, it could take we 50 to 100 years for even consider say we pay back the money for that bridge there. I always thought it was a folly, total nonsense, and this COVID just exposed all of that. So when you talk about the bridge and so on, you just because honestly now something I was bitterly against. Some forum then they 100 man then, I mean 1 grain they argue against them because I thought it is not what we need right now. In the future maybe, because when we go London, if na Heathrow, if na Gatwick, they take me another half an hour or 40 minutes for get into central London. If I go Lunge, it take me 40 minutes for get into Freetown. Is that a big deal? But no, when we go Freetown, we take and make like it's the biggest thing ever. Let's get real. Bridge not to we concern, not to we priority. So now we left that. But then we go back to spirit of Bai Bureh, because I think waiting Alhaji Njai don't talk, don't really inspire me. And I look at Diaspora Voices, it says inspiring communities, raising champions. All my way know me, no say for the last 10 years, I go Cape Verde, I bore everybody about Cape Verde. If you go Cape Verde, somebody they were old like Bai Bureh, that is Amilcar Cabral. Any side you go, people then they talk say, let us do things in the spirit of Amilcar Cabral. You go to school, you go to university, then they quota every day. Do you know why Cape Verde has the highest literacy rate in the whole of Africa? So ECOWAS region no more, the one whole Africa. 89% can read and write. No other country even comes close. Because when Amilcar Cabral will teach, he talks say the reason why Portugal no one give we independence, now because they talk say we no go able to look after ourselves. He says so when we get this independence finally, let we show them say we don't need them for nothing. We can do everything by ourselves. 4 months ago, now ECOWAS announced say the Renewable Energy Directorate, now Cape Verde, then they go put on. Why? Because Cape Verde don't announce 5 years ago. Say in 5 years' time, the one whole country 100% will be reliant on renewable energy. 100%. No country in the world can boast that. This now we Cape Verde now West Africa is 354 miles off the coast of Gambia, and yet it might as well be on Mars. Such is the difference between the two countries. You know.
Wow, that's interesting because now when we look at Sierra Leone, Sierra Leone, they in a wonderful, perfect situation, if I may use the word perfect. And the fact that we not get so much hang-ups yet in terms of infrastructure, we still raw enough for they able for implement things like renewable energy, you know, the roads them out for make them. We still get that opportunity today for put a planning where go take we for the next 100 years even because of the way we place this. So now it's a very important time for begin think in that way. So again, in the spirit of Bai Bureh, forget that kind of forward thinking for the family. How the family will be better in the next 50 to 100 years. Now is the time we'll get for being for think about this. I wonder, Patrice, whether you get anything for add on to this as well. Patrice, please unmute. I can't hear you at all.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All right, we can hear you now.
I totally agree with the two wonderful gentlemen here. And really, the spirit of Bai Bureh is evidenced in Mr. Njai's efforts. And I still want to say that there are many, many people out there like that. Maybe we need to now start finding radical strategies of solidarity between these type of efforts, you know, making it more visible throughout the country. Efforts like this, community-based people getting down with indigenous technology and the evidence. So then I want. But also, I'm sorry.
And Patrice, even with that, saying that, I cannot wait for you to come and go to Kabbalah to Mr. Njai's festival.
I come.
To be there.
I come. Listen, but I want to say something about what Frantz Fanon has said in The Wretched of the Earth, his book Wretched of the Earth. Now, although it was written in the 60s, just after the colonial system, he's talking about the responsibilities or looking at the middle class and the bourgeois, right? Essentially what he's saying, okay, I'll read it. Mm-hmm. It says, in an underdeveloped, and now this is 60s, right? So the language, say in an underdeveloped country, an authentic national middle class ought to consider as its bounden duty to betray the calling fate has marked out for it and put itself to school with the people, which is what Bai Bureh did. In other words, to put at the people's disposal the intellectual and technical capital that it has snatched when going through the colonial universities. But unhappily, we shall see that very often the national middle class does not follow this heroic, positive, fruitful, and just path. Rather, it disappears with its soul set at peace into the shocking ways of a traditional bourgeois, of a bourgeois which is stupidly, contemptibly, cynically bourgeois. In other words, replacing the rich man with himself. Right, we see it not just in Sierra Leone, and I'm saying the bourgeois, the middle classes, got to step up with that Bai Bureh spirit. Got to step up. It's not all about, you know, like I say, not to me, Naya, when a diasporan go begin to talk about government. Governments change, but real change happens in the cultural space. Real change happens in the way we live and we communicate and engage with each other. You know what I mean? So the bourgeois got to step up, man. You can't be using Western models, right, to build your big houses. I know people are doing things, trying to help people on the side and stuff, but we have to go more. We really need that Bai Bureh spirit. We have to go much further because as Mr. Njai don't say, and he's on the ground there, and I'm sure he's not exaggerating. He's not being pessimistic. Yeah, which means that's a carry-on call. No go left and no more to government no more. There's a whole bunch of middle class people that enjoy. And the diaspora as well, we all have to, I know a lot of diasporans are trying. We have to try harder because ordinary Sierra Leoneans have come through a lot, right? We don't want to be coming out of the mother's womb and the first thing we're thinking about is going abroad. Right? We've got to find a way to deal with that, brain drain. And the bourgeois, the middle classes, the Schwens, they have a lot to do. They really need to get hold of that Bai Bureh spirit. Because I see them here, so it's not like I'm...
Yeah, I mean, I think Patrice, you know, that is, that now one big challenge where lots of people in the face in terms of restructuring the mind. Now, for say time is going down, we barely get another 2-3 minutes more for make we wrap up, and this is such a big subject. But I want to definitely acknowledge, even at this point, somebody of course like a Dr. Alaji Njai, of course, you, Patrice, the work you're doing here is immense in representing Sierra Leone, and you, Mr. Ade Daramy, all this research you're doing and bringing this up front, and we will be calling you more because there's a lot more spirits like this we need to call. I'd love another program on looking at maybe whether it's the spirit of Yoko. I don't know what is there to bring, but I'd love to discuss this further with you, Mr. Daramy. Okay, but which characters in the history of Sierra Leone that we should be bringing up, and let's talk about them and look at their relationship to our system in Sierra Leone here, and how can we use them to inspire, but more so how we go before make a narrative where we all, as you don't say earlier on, a clarion call for make we all come together and build, and for make we country better. This is not about politics. This is not about say whose politics were bad or good or whatever. This really now about the stake of Sierra Leone, the health of we nation, and the future of we generation where they come after we. There's a saying that if we picking them what they bring, they're not better past we, then we don't fail humanity. We don't commit a crime to humanity if we picking, they're not better past we. When we look Sierra Leone, it's like I say, we picking them, hardly logo things them better pass we, you know. But now this now we for strive for. So for tonight, we don't bring out the spirit of you know, sacrifice, leadership, sacrifice. We don't look at the spirit of family, for example. We don't bring in, you know, and I think all these important. The hope what they look for, and Mr. Njai, explain this to you because I know you're also an academic as well as much as a scientist, that with the hope for say, for the people that already listen this program right now, with the hope that we'll go able to put together some kind of series of story them, or go build around the character there so that we go begin push this in schools them. Whether we make a series of Bai Bureh superhero or Bai Bureh whatever it is, but the aim now that me, Patrice, as performers, Mr. Ade Daramy as a fantastic researcher and man research information, yourself, again as a professor, but we can able for bring together ideas for make we begin create small series of story them, books them, in whichever way we want for do, whether not through animation or the books, but that we will produce something we will begin for make it go into the school step. But not just on Bai Bureh, but it could be on Yoko, it could be on many other characters across Africa, even down to Mansa Musa, Thomas Sankara, it could be, you know, Ahmed Sekou Toure, Steve Biko, it could be any of these. But what we're looking for is the spirit of these people. We put them together and, you know, low examination, we begin to understand that spirit of self-determination, of self-respect, and moreover, the spirit of honoring our goddesses. In other words, honoring our women. We all, anybody who knows about Thomas Sankara, know for say Thomas Sankara be get at least once a month when they say, now the man they no more that they go for cook today, that they go na market, come then cook, the woman they all they relax. Thomas Sankara did that.
Yeah.
But which was fantastic, and that is a great African spirit. This is why we have goddesses in all across Africa in terms of how we honor we mama them and how they honor we women them and we daughters them. We as men are we for protect them. All of this for me is and that this program they about. So I hope that Mr. Njai, Mr. Patrice, of course Mr. Ade Daramy, hopefully together with Alim Kamara, King Masco, people like this, we can come together, bong we heads together, let's begin for do this. So for you listeners, this is the aim of this program, so that at some point we'll be able to serve una and una picking them and we picking them this information, so we no longer the tin up when they reject them at the front, when they look behind, nothing no they behind, no backbone no they. We want for create a backbone for make them tinapa. So that we'll come up and this malaise, this confusion where we young one and deeper. That are the hope of this program here. Well, as it is, no phone calls not coming, but I just want to read through a few of the comments then. Somebody say, Patrice, this especially to you, somebody say, I wish somebody can make movies of this wonderful man. Well, Patrice actually, Mr. Abukul Bangura, Patrice actually just mentioned this to me this evening, that we should do the research so that we can make a film about Bai Bureh. And we even, you know, but we go suicide and they go, who knows? So they will go find some 2-3 people and for help for sponsor will do this. I don't know. Patrice, sorry, I'm not for saying you, but people are asking. So
yeah, I mean, it's a big work, but the talent is there. There are many other amazing artists, you know, that can participate. I really believe that sustainable futures happen within the cultural space. So not just in the economic space or the political space, you know. So I'm pretty sure that, and there are many ways to tell this story. It doesn't have to be in it, but we can make a film, yes, of course. But we have storytelling. We have a wonderful cultural, you know, mechanisms. Then we get different way for pull story, and we all can join on this. Not to we know more all man. Once you get more and you love saloon, yourself can evolve. You can write poem. You can go research yourself, write. You know, there's so many different ways we can do.
Here's something, Patrice. Here's something here where Jerry Faba says, "Wow, that was respect indeed. I was not aware of his exile."
Yeah, in fact, the story of the exile alone can make an amazing film.
Wow.
And we have so many others. You know, Lamina Sanko,
yes.
a serious guy. I mean, serious guy, and he sacrificed for the betterment of him with himself. And the end of that particular story, he's sorry.
Wow. Well, maybe that could be a topic for another time.
But it's definitely part of the Bai Bureh spirit. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
You know, in other words, all I'm saying is the spirit of Bai Bureh is alive. And even though I know we have tremendous challenges, we must not lose hope. And we do have these qualities right the way through. And we just get for look behind and see what we can do for the ones coming through, the young ones, you know, that are coming.
Mr. Daramy, George Walker just says, this show is very, very important. It's a shame not a lot has been written about him, and his place in history should be put in proper perspective. Mr. Daramy.
Actually, a lot has been written about him, but you know, people don't know where to find it. And so that's one of the things that I think we're in fact, I thought if USIFU was going to ask us like a summary, it's one of the two things I was going to mention.
Yes.
And what I was going to say is that a site like, for example, the Sierra Leone Web, we can collect all the writings, not just about Bai Bureh, but Bai Bureh, Madame Yoko, and other people like that. And so people can actually read, and there have been over 50 books about Bai Bureh. So, you know, a lot has been written about him because, as you know, with the British, whenever somebody clashes with them, you know, it gets documented. So there have been books by, you know, historians, both at contemporaneous ones and you know, some who came after him. So that's one of the things I was going to suggest, that we have a kind of repository where people can go and find some of this history, and it shouldn't cost them anything. They should just click and be able, like the Christopher Five book I mentioned, is 384 pages long. You know, so I said if I emailed it out, it's too big and bulky. So that was one thing. The second thing I was going to mention was that, so this doesn't end up being just another talking shop. I think we should resolve that. We should have something like a kind of annual TED talk called In the Spirit of Bai Bureh. And we should challenge people to come up with things that capture Bai Bureh's spirit. And it could be across anything. It could be to do with family, it could do with health sector, it could do with farming, it could just do anything, but it has to have at its core that thing called In the Spirit of Bai Bureh. And, you know, as I said, it could be like a kind of TED Talk, an annual thing. And we challenge people. You give it to school students, you give it to university students at different levels. And you say, you know, this is the topic every year, In the Spirit of Bai Bureh. And choose something that you're going to say, we're going to do this for Sierra Leone in the spirit of Bai Bureh. And then you come and you give a 5 or 10 minute talk about it.
You know what?
We do it on the 27th of April.
This is very interesting. Well, I don't know how much you guys know about the 27th of April, but that's another story maybe that Bai Bureh is closely related to. Mr. Njai, you know, talking of the spirit of Bai Bureh now, about the idea of bringing this to the schools and so on. I hope you're taking notes, because this is a very great way, in fact, as we're looking at wrapping up the program. But 27th of April, that's very, very important. Now, if maybe I should explain that story right now to people, okay? And then I'll give all of your, I tell you what, can I just give everybody just, you know, 30 seconds max just to wrap up, and then I'll tell this story, and then I can end that story there. Maybe that will be the best way. Yeah. So maybe Patrice, what's your own final?
I don't say I'm already on all. Thank you very much for listening in. Thank you very much for your questions and your comments. And we have challenges, but I believe we get the spirit of Bai Bureh, and once we begin for look at that, begin for decolonize. You know, not to alter within at the West 9 for past waiting we get beautiful things, we get beautiful spirits, we get beautiful talent, we get all that. Then we begin tell, we story them and see ourselves in our own image and learn from our history so that we can find more effective ways better for move forward, for have sustainable, healthy futures for the generations where they come. It's entirely possible. And we can do that. We can learn from other African countries, begin learn about the Bai Bureh spirit in other African countries, you know, so that we can go before. It's not just a myth. We can do it. And as Mr. Njai has and many others, we are doing it. We are doing it. We just have to be, the glass is more than half full, and maybe we'll get to a point where we just change the glass altogether. New glass. Alternative structures, alternative visions. We got to do it together. Storytellers, them artists, we all have a part to play. Just like Naiambana Ade, who has started to doing essay writing competitions in schools. It encouraged the ordinary kids right across Salone for write and think about them with itself. So there are so many wonderful initiatives. Let's get behind each other.
Thank you.
And make a go for it.
Thank you. Mr. Njai? Mr. Njai, I don't know if you're there. You need to...
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Please, what's your you know, just a few 30 seconds wrap up.
I just say thanks to both panelists, and then I think first, I really like the idea of the TED talks, but also really trying for put the spirit of Bai Bureh all across the country and in a different light, and bringing it up, in every sphere. Like, we need for really decolonize the curriculums, decolonize the educational thinking. We need for begin for rethink what we learn at school, and what, different aspects them way then important, and how would they take more control of we own resources them, and be able for be more economically free, but also begin for be proud of we own cultures and values. So the cultural dependency would tend to be reduced, because sometimes, in fact, I feel we greatest problem, in fact, sometimes not even the economic dependency, but sometimes because culturally now we don't become culturally dependent. So it don't become, they create a sense of self-doubt in we and in everything around we. That make, like, for me, even though they do every year. And thank you, Yusuf, and I hope Patrice and Ade, if you're in Sierra Leone, you can visit Kwenadugu and Kabbalah. But every year, as they do me science and technology and engineering and math festival and leadership, we don't bring in the arts and culture, because the art and culture, now the biggest thing I feel if we able to conquer that, because when you able to capture the arts and the culture, and you bring a sense of identity, a sense of purpose, a sense of a means of production through the culture, then the science, the technology, the engineering, the arts, everything else now go, the technical thing, all the work, because now they will work towards enhancing things and with and then a part of our own culture. So right now we biggest problem that, because for instance, we look at COVID-19, right? We all along, because of we cultural dependency, we all the think say the solution get for come out from the West. But now nobody not get the solution. They not get vaccine, they not get medicine, we not get it. So we don't, on the other hand, we not enhance we local herbalist, we local traditional healthcare systems. And one of the things, the biggest mistakes what they do, we almost feel say that the colonial medicine, the Western medicine, far superior than what we've been getting in Africa. But it's actually the one who we've been getting in Africa and with traditional systems, like a victim of that. So now at the beginning for understand that, and as many of we don't get into science now, they push and get a Pan-African background, that don't make even WHO and others now they begin to rethink, say, you know what, we need for support more into African health system, traditional herbs and traditional systems. And because we get for think sustainability, we get for think about how we build things them from and what thing we get around and utilize. And that for me, Sierra Leone, so for me, honestly, I can go back to the West, but I don't look at this as a sacrifice. That I feel more fulfilled being here, and I know it's tough, it's not easy, but that's not the only way we're going to bring change in some ways, and even if not one person you change, that can affect, if not the right person, it potentially can affect massive change in society.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Mr. Daramy?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd said my own summing up pretty much earlier, really. But I think just I want people to challenge us actually to do practical things. And in fact, I was going to kind of say we could even hijack or co-opt what Mr. Njai is doing and actually use that as a template, as an inspiration to the rest of the country, because I have to be honest, until he spoke about it today, I was unaware of all that good work. And if I'm unaware, I'm sure lots of people are too. So let's highlight it, let's celebrate it, and then actually let's look for others who are doing similar things and promote these sorts of things so that people can actually be inspired by them. So that's all I have to say.
I do hope that you gentlemen, you exchange contacts, okay? I do hope you do, because this is the network that we should be forming, these kind of alliances that we should be forming, so that we can work together and share this information. Now, Botswana, let me just talk about April 27th. Now, this is a story which is said, it's in the oral tradition way. But what it said is this: when Bai Bureh was getting ready to attack, all the chiefs that he had allied with, he gave them all a certain number of banga. Why you don't give them all the banga, all man get your banga, all man exact same number banga, and I don't give them. I say make them go. He said now, every day when I wake up, una for to weigh one banga. Every day when I wake up, una for to weigh one banga. He said the day where una all don't throw away the last banga, now that day we the attack the British people then. So it said that all the chief then go, all man it's way in Banga every day. One day, as the Banga, the last one I left, that I didn't in the attack. Well, now, it happened for say, that day with the attack, now 27th of April. Now that day, then go, the attack with them start hot tax war, proper one. Now, because of that date, the way it's Monday, I don't see 27th of April. Now, this now waiting and tell me pan the oral. Then say, at that time day, make when we get we independence, Samuel Timagai, then choose April 27 in the spirit of Bai Bureh for saying that we independence day that one day. So we get this man in spirit day right across we every time when we go 27th of December, 27th of April, independence. We look at the spirit of Bai Bureh. Pantap that, if we do not believe what you are the talk, they even say that way to inspire the current logo where SLPP then gets. Now waiting, not a pamtik, na pamtik. Now I'm not telling them say, I don't talk parties and issue now so. And they talk with to inspire. That then say way to inspire that Bangatic day. Now because of Bai Bureh in Banga, where he get to the chief them for make them attack, for waiting, for self-determination, for protect we people them, for look after the future generation, for protect we land, for protect we women them, for make we turn up with integrity as a nation of people. This discussion, what we don't get to today, I'm so excited about it. I'm so glad if we get this discussion. In fact, my panelists, them, some people actually, they say they need part 3 of this discussion. Well, maybe we'll do part 3, but I will go for consult my producer. I'll go for consult, of course, the panelists, then I also, and figure out again, well, who else in spirit maybe we need for bring about and talk about. Because in the spirit of Bai Bureh, we get plenty other people of history what we need for talk about. Maybe the panelists and also maybe any other person in there, we go agree for come next time or we can begin for talk about other wonderful people and spirits them we still there inside we country deleke today. I tell you, thank you for listening to me. Mina USIFU Jalloh. This now speak up. Now, diaspora voices. Mr. Alajinjai, thank you. Mr. Patrice Naiambana, thank you. Mr. Ade Daramy, thank you. I tell the producer with ABN, DJ Little, we're not the producer behind all of this show. I tell you plenty, thank you. I tell diaspora voices, thank you. And when I say if we don't listen to this program, I tell you plenty, thank you. Una can still send una messages them in. Una can share this video, make a lot of people them learn from waiting we don't talk about today. So with this one, I will say tata. I will see you again in a couple of weeks. Tune in to USIFU Jalloh, Diaspora Voices. Speak up, speak out. Yes, Brother Patrice. Thank you. Thank you. We're gone. Well, everybody's calling for part 3. Here we go. It
Oh,
looks
man.
I go try get lights for the next one.
Yeah, Ade, just get like
Yeah, small lights.
okay. We're gonna go off now. We're gonna go
exactly.
off now. We can talk on this later. Is that okay?
Now, my phone I dey use. Just get something.
Yeah,
just on
yeah,
YouTube.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick up. I've got to get another because it's dark here. As well.
No, I'll get a proper light anyway. Yeah.
Maybe we could start looking at the prototype of the TED Talk.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, I really believe it's something that is
because
it's doable. You know.
Because
Guys, I'll go off maybe